everybody, I'm EJ Stevens.
And I'm Bill West.
And here we are again on SCV In the Movies. Now, we're in a very special place today.
And I'm dressed funny.
And we're here at Vasquez Rocks, a place where thousands, and that's no lie, thousands of TV shows and movies have been filmed over the years. We're here with the star of one of the, undoubtedly the most famous episodes of television that was ever filmed out here, Bobby Clark. And here's the character that Bobby played, the Gorn. Thanks for being here with us, Bobby.
Well, you're welcome.
Now, you were out here in 1966. In a moment, we're going to show you what the scene might look like in 2012.
November 1966.
November 1966. So here we go. Stay tuned. SCV In the Movies.
Captain's log 3.14159. I have unwillingly been transported down to this barren asteroid to face a lizard-like creature called the Gorn. He is cunning and highly advanced, and could clearly benefit from a healthy exfoliating scrub. Like most humans, I am naturally repelled by reptiles and bad parodies. The Gorn is immensely strong. He has already withstood attacks from me that would have killed a human being. We've been locked in the heat of battle for hours. We had a staring contest, but I blinked first. I sunk his battleship. He captured my flag. I was rock. He was scissors. I had right foot red. He had left hand blue. But when he reached Candyland first, the gloves came off.
This gecko's going down.
I am no match for his speed and agility. He is a hummingbird, and I am a three-toed Peruvian sloth. It's obvious if something doesn't happen soon, he will prevail.
Guys, knock it off!
But Vetron dude, you said we were supposed to kill the Gorn.
And deny him all those residuals? Nah, I'd just gotten up, I hadn't had my coffee. I tell you what, why don't you guys go back to your respective ships and keep in touch using various forms of social media. You've got cable on the Enterprise, right, Kirk?
True that, amigo.
Well, you know what you should do is tune in to SCV In the Movies or watch it online at scvinthemovies.com. As a matter of fact, why don't we watch it together right now? What do you say? And we encourage the rest of you sentient beings of the galaxy to stay tuned for more of SCV In the Movies here on SCV TV. All right, guys, that was a lot of fun. Once again, welcome to Bobby for coming out here and being so gracious with us two clowns here today.
We sure appreciate it.
Yeah. So now that scene, okay, that I'm sure, well, you tell us, is that the thing that you're most recognized for?
Today it is. Today it is the most recognizable thing that I've ever done.
Wow.
Now, you've had a long career as a stuntman and an actor, but you're known for what, 3 minutes on television? Tell us about that day. Tell us, that was back in November of 1966, right?
66.
That you filmed right here.
Right
with,
here.
With Shatner, of course. And
yes.
First of all, how'd you get the job?
Well, I knew Joe Pevney. He was the director. This is his first Star Trek he ever directed. And I had worked for Joe Pevney on several Westerns, and he just thought I'd be good for the Gorn part. And this was the first of my 3 that I did working for Joe Pevney on Star Trek.
Oh, what were the other episodes that you worked?
One was Arena, Return of the Archons, and Mirror, Mirror.
Oh, I love Mirror, Mirror, the one with Spock with the beard. It's a great one.
I did the apple, too. Did I say the apple?
Oh, no, you didn't.
Yes, I did the apple.
Oh, one of the people who were feeding the god Baal or whatever he was called.
Vol.
Okay, you know better than I do.
So who was the first person you worked for? How'd you get your first break, if you will? Was it as an extra?
Extra work, yes. We used to have 2 cards, E and A. And after I had worked extra for quite a while and learned about what I was doing, or what we all were doing, then we got an actor's card, and we're working 2 cards. Meaning that if we were out in Lone Pine working out in the Alabama hills or something, and the director says, God, I'd like to have a couple of guys fall off a horse here or something like that. Well, if you're working with an extra card, you can't do that. You have to have an actor's card to do it. So they would promote you over to an actor's card, then you could start doing the stunt work.
Then you had the privilege of falling off a horse.
Then you had the privilege
Yes.
of falling off a horse. That's right.
That's when you know you've arrived. Yeah.
No, that's when you went from $20 to $30.
Now, how do you fall off a horse and not get hurt? You say you were never seriously injured. How do you learn how to fall off a horse?
That's secrets. We can't tell people how to fall off. Anybody can fall off a horse.
Oh, it's the law of gravity, right?
Yeah, and if you don't want to get hurt, fall off so you don't get hurt. That's all. We hit sand, though. We hit a lot of sand and stuff like that. But sometimes you don't have sand. Sometimes you just got to go and get off the horse where you're at.
And a thing about stunts, you were teaching me out there, unfortunately a little too late for our fight scene, how to properly take a punch and how to deliver a punch and all that. I thought it was fascinating. Where did you pick that up? Just by doing?
Years. No, I had help. I had other stuntmen come out and we'd practice doing fights and stuff like that. Sure it is. That's how you learn things. You watch and you learn. You watch and you learn.
It was, I got to say, it was fascinating doing that fight scene with Bobby because he sort of took over the scene and he knows, well, now look, I'm going to have to stand here. And if I come in this way and I swing like this, you can't be doing this. It was fascinating to watch him just go into that mold of being a stuntman again. It was really neat to see.
Well, thank you. But I didn't teach him. I showed him.
Yeah.
You weren't much of a student, obviously.
I wasn't. I'm trying.
So
We got it done.
we got it done. We got the job done. Now, did you ever have a stunt that scared you, or one that you ever turned down? I mean, was that something? If you ever turned down one, were you ever going to work again? How did that work?
Well, you didn't want to turn down a stunt, because if you did turn down a stunt, you may not work again.
Mm-hmm.
So what it is you don't take a stunt that you can't do. You don't say, I can do that. And then when it comes time to do it, say, oh, well, you don't do that. That's bad. Kiss of death.
Okay, so you were out here for a couple days of filming.
Right.
Do you remember any of the specifics? Like, I mean, I don't know. I know how things are now. I work.
You want to ask me about the costume, and what it consisted of, and probably, well, how long did it take to get into the costume? What was it made of?
You read my mind?
Because I've been asked all of these questions a lot of times, and I believe we already mentioned this. The costume was made out of rubber. And it was rubber on top of rubber because the Gorn was a big muscular person. And that totaled up 2.5 to 3 inches of rubber all over your body.
Holy smokes.
All right, the wetsuit was a pair of pants that went down like this with muscles. And it came up to here just like a wetsuit, like anyone would wear going surfing or anything. And then the top part of the wetsuit was there, had the strap that came up through here and snapped there, and had all the muscles over there too. Then there was the head, then there was the tunic, then there was the gauntlets, and then there was the feet. Well, the feet had tennis shoes inside of them, but the feet were about 2 feet long, 1.5 feet long, somewhere in that area.
Makes it hard to climb around these rocks, I bet.
It was very, very difficult to walk in these rocks, especially back there where the brush is, because you start to make a step and the toes will get caught in a bush, and then you're doing this, well, cut, back up, and try and do it again. So this is what we, this was what the situation with the costume was.
How long did it take you to put it on?
About 20 minutes.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Just cornstarch and slip into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now we're out here in the desert. Okay, do they have a nurse on duty in case the Gorn passes out on the screen here?
There's always a nurse on duty in case of a grip gets hurt, an electrician gets hurt, in case anybody gets hurt. They always have nurses on the set.
Now, you were telling me that when you took a break between scenes,
because of the way that suit was made, you couldn't actually sit down. So you had to take a break standing up on a ladder or something like that.
As far as resting, I probably could have sat on this rock here and leaned back in the Gorn suit. I could not have sat up like this with that Gorn suit on. It was just too stiff and everything was in the way.
So that's why they had you up on the ladder?
So I would climb a ladder and lean into it. Wardrobe man was on top of the rock, and he would pull the head off of me so I could get air. Then the director would set up the shot, do what he had to do, get it all set up, and then they'd say, "Okay, Bobby, come on." And then then we would do the next shot. And then he'd say, "Cut," and then we'd carry the shot to another place. If he could, he would shoot like 2 or 3 different things at one time, but as a rule, he just shot here and there, and put it all together.
How many takes? Do you remember?
No.
No? Was it a lot, though? It was a...
Oh, well, sure. They did a lot of takes. The lead-in scene, the Gorn looked and went, and did his little thing there, and that was a cut.
Mm-hmm. So it'd be real quick like that.
Right. Or he would come and he would get that with the Gorn would start walking, then he would cut. Then he would go to Kirk and get Kirk's reaction of the Gorn doing this. Then he'd go back to the Gorn, and the Gorn would go toward Kirk, and then it would be a cut. Then the stuntman, doubling Kirk and myself, we would get together and figure what Joe Pevney wanted to do for the stunt and how he wanted it done and stuff. And then we went into it and did it.
What other details do you remember from that day, as far as locations, things like that?
Well, let me just say this first off. What we filmed today, I hate to say it, the thought and the idea and everything was there for what we did at Star Trek. But if you got to remember that we shot this 40 or 45, 46 years ago here. And where you see bushes now, there probably wasn't any bushes then. And where you don't see bushes now, there was probably bushes and sagebrush and stuff like that here. And when we filmed it out in the big opening behind us, behind this rock here. And
so about where we shot our scene.
Right, we did a lot of it right there where we shot our scene. And Kirk threw the boulder at me, and they brought a tree out, and that was the first tree that you saw where the Gorn came in, and he ripped a limb off of it, and Shatner pulled off a stick, and then it became a chase.
Do you remember anything about the scene where Shatner shot the cannon at you?
Well, the scene was when I came around the rock. You're pressing me here a little. I came around the rock, and I was standing there facing Shatner, and then he had already loaded the bamboo up with the coal and the diamonds and the saltpeter and all this stuff here. They showed him do that, but I didn't see the special effects men load the bamboo of what they had in it, but it did go poof and made a big white smoke, and when the smoke cleared, the Gorn was down on the ground. So that was done in cuts, and I laid down on the ground. The makeup man came in and put the little blood spotches all over me and stuff, and Kirk kneeled down next to me. He was going to kill me, and then he decided, no, to heck with the Metrons, I ain't going to kill for you.
And about that time, EJ came in with a shower cap.
With shower cap, yeah.
I recall, I think that's how it went.
Yeah, then EJ came in with a shower cap and toothbrush. But in the real thing, after that, then I had disappeared and I went to my ship. Now, there was a lot of special effects in on the show, but that was scenes that they did from when they were shooting Cessna 3. where you didn't even see the Gorns then. You just saw the explosions coming and Kirk and Spock and whatever running from one place to the other to try and get it. And then...
was that here? Cessna 3, was that here?
I don't believe so.
No?
I don't believe so. It could have been. I didn't work on Cessna 3.
I know that they say they do an establishing shot and they say at those hills over there, which looks like here. So I was wondering, yeah.
Well, you mean when they were on the spaceship?
No, when they were at Cessna 3, when they're looking to where to fire the cannon. I
Well,
think.
none of these hills were there. They had a building in there, and it was a station of some sort where the Gorn were legally supposed to do their business. And then the Federation came in and interfered with that. And that's when the chase started, and the Metrons halted everything and brought Gorn and Captain Kirk to this planet.
It was really an effective episode because it starts off, the audience is on the side of Kirk thinking you're the bad guy and the Federation was good and they're going to go after you and whoop you. And then by the time, EJ comes in with a shower cap, the Metron comes in, it becomes clear that the whole thing was reversed and actually we were in the wrong. It was a really thoughtful piece of work.
So now I had a question. What was it like out here that day? I mean, that was the first season of Star Trek for the Arena. I think it's episode 19. How many people were here? I mean, it wasn't that big of a show at that time, right?
Just the company. We worked for
company?
Desilu.
Okay.
It was a Desilu production. We came out here in November. People think maybe November was a little cooler, but in California, November is as hot as it is almost in January, in July. And it was hot. The costume I wore was very, very hot, all neoprene rubber.
Wow.
And it was a scorcher, and then the company also. So.
Now, how long did it take to film? Do you remember?
I worked 2 days here
2 days.
Wow.
on this show.
And had you worked here for other things besides Star Trek?
Did several other shows, all westerns though, mostly.
Oh.
I am a cowboy in the business, and that's what I've made my life on most.
Now, you have an SCV connection, not just because you shot the famous scene here, but you also live here in town, don't you?
I live in Saugus, about 8 miles from here.
Oh, great. So you're never far from your famous scene, are you?
No, we ride out here all the time.
Oh, do you? Neat.
Now, let me ask you about that. So, I understand you participate in the conventions. Is that right? Still?
Yes,
The
Star Trek conventions.
Yeah. So, how long have you been doing that?
6 years now, I believe. 6 or 7 years I've been doing Star Trek conventions.
Now, do you have people that are like Gorn groupies? Do you have to fight them off, or what happens?
No groupies. Just a lot of people. They like the Gorn, and there's so many people I can't even. I'm in awe every time I think about how many people come up and say that you were the Gorn, and God, I loved your episode and stuff like that, and not really being a Trekkie, I just go along with them on that, and I get along. I like the space stuff that goes on television, Farscape, and shows like that. But in my younger days, I wasn't caring much about those. I was a cowboy all the way.
Now, I was watching your episode, Return of the Archons. I love that one. And you go crashing through a window. It looks dangerous as anything. And then you turn right around, come back out, and you do that famous line, "Festival!" I love that. And it got me to wondering, because you're obviously an actor, but you're obviously a stuntman too. When you look back at your career, what percentage would you say were you a stuntman versus an actor? Or were you just kind of half-50?
I was an extra. Then I was a stuntman. Then I was an actor, only because I was a stuntman able to do dialogue. Then I became that. However, there has been some shows where all I did was dialogue, but mostly it always came with a stunt.
Did you ever get hurt doing any stunts?
Not seriously.
Good.
I'm suffering now.
Yeah, we might fix that today. We might ruin your streak.
Now, you mentioned to me some of the other TV shows and things like that. You mentioned some scene you had with Barbara Stanwyck.
That was Big Valley.
Big Valley.
Yeah.
And was that done here, or was that done?
That was done on the stage.
Okay. Yeah, tell us about that, because that sounded pretty interesting. I haven't seen that actual episode.
I was one of 4 baddies. They called us baddies or heavies or whatever. And we kidnapped Barbara to take her to a cabin so that she could teach the main batter how to read.
And were you the main batter?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was a guard outside.
Okay.
And when Barbara Stanwyck came outside, I commenced to make passes.
And what was she like to work with? I heard she was a
Barbara
sweetheart.
was a beautiful lady.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
Beautiful lady.
All right. Tell us some of the other people. Now, you mentioned some pretty big shows here. You mentioned, well, Star Trek, of course, and Rawhide, and, you know, what were those folks like to work with at those times in their careers?
Well, I'm not going to say anybody was bad.
You were the baddie.
I wasn't a baddie. I was as good as anybody else, and we were all cowboys, and we did what cowboys do. We respected ladies. We respected women. A lot of us had fun in the bar, and we just lived our life. That's all. Simple. Did what we did what we had to do, went to work, whatever. But all the other actors, they were all great. They were all great.
Come on, give us some dirt, Bobby. Come on.
There's no dirt. There's no dirt. There's no dirt.
So, what's the strangest thing that's ever happened to you at like a convention or from a fan? I mean, well, like this was given to you by a fan. Is that correct?
No.
No.
I had to buy this Gorn. Yes.
That's not right.
It was made by a fellow in Sweden, and I don't have his name with me right now. I in a way I feel guilty because I never did call him and say thank you for it, because I was a third party to receive this Gorn head.
Now, I remember when we were filming our fight scene, you said it was almost impossible to see out of that thing.
Yes.
Was that true with the original too, or was
No. No, the original I could see through the eyes and had a lot of air going in through the mouth and the ears, and it breathed real well.
How was the suit you were wearing?
Hot.
Was it?
3 inches of rubber.
Oh,
So you were in a big wetsuit, basically, right?
That was the base of it.
That was the base of it. Okay.
Have any stories of working with William Shatner? Anything come to mind from that episode or any of the other episodes you did?
No. Jim was a professional. I hoped that I was. And he would come in and he would do his scene or scenes or whatever. And when that was over, he'd go and sit down and do what he did. And then Leonard would come in and so forth, or they'd all get together sometimes and they'd put the camera on Leonard, and Shatner would be here throwing dialogue at Leonard, and Leonard would on camera give it back to Kirk.
Mm-hmm. All good people to work with.
Yeah.
I remember in Mirror, Mirror, you were one of Sulu's henchmen. Any recollections of working with any of the actors? Anybody particularly fun to work with, or they were all just professional?
We are all professionals, but sure, George Takei, he was great to work with. Mm-hmm. You know, he was funny, and most of the people that I worked with. Now, I never did a shot on the bridge of the Enterprise, so I don't know about that.
Uh-huh.
I did a lot of the exterior shots, but it was like with Nimoy and Shatner and another redcoat, which redcoats didn't last long.
That's right.
But you get along with them. You do a good job or whatever. And Shatner was the star of the show, so he could kid around.
Uh-huh. If
we kidded arown, well, what are you doing?
You're wasting time.
Yeah.
I think you made a comment earlier when we were shooting that there was a good time to work in the industry, a good time to be in Hollywood. Can you elaborate on that some?
I spent 4 years in the Navy. I was in the Korean War. I got out of the service in 1957, September. I knew the 50s came in somewhere. 1957, September, I got out of the Navy. Tried doing a few jobs, couldn't do anything. Just bummed around. I was young. I was 21, 22, and didn't do much anything. Started rodeoing a little bit, working more with the racetrack as I did before I went in the service. I've been always around horses all my life, so that's where it led me. And then one day I just says, I'm quitting all of this playing around and I'm going to go to work in the picture studios. So I fought my way into getting a Screen Extras Guild card, which they don't have a Screen Extras Guild anymore. And from Screen Extras Guild and building myself up, got in to do some stunt work, got a Screen Actors Guild card, and then I was on my way.
Now, you said you'd filmed some other things here. You mentioned the cowboy stuff. Now, so you've been a cowboy all your life, mostly, or I think you told me that, right?
I worked on ranches, I rodeoed, rode rough stock.
Do you remember some of the other things you filmed out here?
Oh, we filmed Rawhide out here. We filmed Gunsmoke out here. I think we filmed the Virginian out here. Almost all the Westerns eventually at one time or other came to Vasquez Rocks to do something. Mm-hmm. Lone Ranger was filmed out here.
Mm-hmm. Singing Sandy. John
That's
Wayne.
right, yes.
Or John Wayne is the singing cowboy and can't sing a lick. So that was done right here. So, yeah. Okay, now, of course, not all the things that you were involved in took place in the Santa Clarita Valley. Tell us some of the other films, some of the names we might recognize, some of the TV shows and films, that kind of thing.
Hard question, because names betray me, or whatever you say. I've worked with Cesar Romero. I was 8 years on Gunsmoke, so needless to say, I worked with Jim Arness, Amanda Blake, Kenny Curtis, Dub Taylor, and Milbert Stone for a lot of years. By 8 years, I say it's not every day 8 years. It's maybe a day on this show, maybe 2 days, off 3 or 4 days, off maybe a week, but there's always another show come on. I never had a single part where I came back and came back and came back. So that took care of pretty much 8 years. I worked on shows like The Great Race with Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, Peter Falk, Natalie Wood, in shows like this. I've worked on the Ten Commandments. I worked on The Greatest Story Ever Told, George Stevens. Just it goes on and on. I worked on horror shows. I worked on comedy shows, Lou Grant, and just well, to make it in a nutshell, all my life has been work, whatever day I could sign a contract and work. A lot of times I don't deal and pal around with the cowboys and stuff that I have worked. However, yes, I did, but as a rule, I didn't do too much going around and stuff like that with them. I'm a married man. I had a family. I had to keep them living. So I tended to my place and worked when I could.
Now, you following up on something Bill mentioned earlier, you talked about when you came into the business, it was a good time because they were doing a lot of westerns, that kind of thing. Are you still working? Are you still acting out there?
No, I'm not doing a lot. The last show I did was called The Changeling with Angelina Jolie, and that was for Clint Eastwood. And that's the last show I'd done. It was 2 years ago. But that doesn't mean that I won't work. That just means I don't get the phone calls anymore, and I don't go out and knock on doors anymore.
And once you've gotten to work with me and EJ,
I was gonna say,
where do you go from there?
Yeah, I'm on the top of the ladder.
Yeah, it's time to retire.
Yeah, they're the greatest. They're the greatest.
Well, I tell you what, this has been a real pleasure for us. It's been great getting to know you, and I mean, it was so nice of you to come and wreck your resume by performing with a couple clowns like us. I really appreciate you coming out here and doing this. This has been a wonderful day for us. So.
Well, I don't use my resume much anymore, but if they want me, they can look me up.
There we go.
Right.
There we go. Well, there you have it. SCV's own local legend, Bobby Clark. And we'll thank you all for coming back again here on SCV in the Movies.